Yeah, it's been a hot minute since we've done one of these.
It has.
A little over a month, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
Good
we're
to be
back. It
Good
is.
to be back.
It's very nice to be back. Some fun stuff going on. Quiver's picture locked. It's now on to its final stages. Should be done shortly. That's exciting.
Nice.
Lots of stress lifted off me. I got to tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we're schmoovin' and grooving.
Did we miss anything while we were away?
Oh, just a couple things. Couple major things. Of course, it always happens as soon as we go on hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
But just to let you guys know, there's going to be a slight update into how the show's going to work. So we're going to have each show have one big main topic that we really do a deep dive in, maybe one or two subtopics depending on how busy of a news week that is. Then we'll still do the B-roll and we'll end with the box office, but we'll do a really deeper dive into the box office than we normally do. And our movie reviews that we do are going to be spoiler reviews placed on Monday, so the day before the episode comes out. And we're going to try on Thursday nights, early Friday mornings when we go see premieres, we're going to kind of have out of the theater reviews for you guys to watch so you can kind of get our initial thoughts as soon as we see those films. So we're going to try that out and see if it works. We're excited about it. We think it's going to make a fun, tighter, better show. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm thrilled. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
So let's talk about the fact that we're not going to get any fucking content for a while, probably.
Oh boy. Well, they have a database. They have
we got a pipeline. We got a pipeline.
We have a pipeline.
For sure.
It's going to get hit eventually.
Yes, but for those of you that don't know, or the three of you that only use our show for movie news, first of all, very sorry. Don't do that. You should follow the trades and be more up to date on things. But the Writers Guild of America has officially gone on strike. This has happened many times throughout the history of the Writers Guild. The most recent one was in 2007, 2008, around that time. Mm-hmm. Because of that, you get, Heroes Season 2, Quantum of Solace, X-Men Origins Wolverine, Transformers 2, that whole spell of movies.
But you also get Jesse Pinkman
on Breaking Bad.
Season 2.
Yes, absolutely. But yes, so that's the kind of big topic we wanted to dive into, is because it's obviously affecting many different aspects of the film industry.
Yes.
And so I kind of wanted to dive in a little bit as to what this strike is mainly about, really. Mm. And there's a few different things. And then as we kind of dive into it, we'll go into the productions that it's affecting and kind of the stories going around that. Mm-hmm. So this strike has a lot to do with the Writers Guild seeing the studios and the big producers kind of turning writing into a gig type of job instead of a career, which it's already difficult to do to have writing as a career, let alone studios trying to kind of save money by skimping out on paying the writers. Because as we've talked about on the show for several months now, there is a huge spending problem going on in Hollywood. They are overspending insanely much so, like way too much money. And I've actually seen some speculation that the reason why the studios barely counter-offered to any of the WGA's inquiries was because they were like, yo, if we shut down for a bit, we can stop spending money. Like, I've legit heard that may be one of the reasons why this even happened.
Because it's really on them to end the strike.
It's on them.
It's really their power. So
absolutely.
They're like, if we can get a...
And I've heard they can go 4 months without losing serious money, where it becomes like, okay, the future's really getting affected now.
Well, because I know that the 2007 writer's strike lasted for about 100 days.
Yeah.
And I think the estimate was it cost like Hollywood $2 billion,
something
roughly,
like that.
Something like that. And that was 2007, so before streaming, I guess streaming was kind of just started around that.
Yeah.
The superhero movies, these big blockbusters weren't as big as they were now.
Yeah.
So if this goes longer than 100, they're losing a lot
a lot of money. It really is on them to end it. But I got a couple points, like the main topic points of what the strike is about. There's a bit more you can research into, like the exact demands as to what's going on and what exactly was counter-offered, and a lot of the times just straight up not counter-offering on things, which blows my mind. But here
no.
yeah thank you, no. Here are the big ones. The big one is getting better residuals for streaming. Part of Hollywood's spending problem is on streaming, and that a lot of times if you want to save spending money on a movie, you can tell a lot of the cast and above-the-line crew, hey, we're not going to give you a salary that big up front, but we'll give you a percentage of the box office. So on paper, they only spent X amount of money on the movie. Streaming, there's no box office. You have to spend all of that money up front. And with writing bigger movies or cable network television shows, you get residuals for every time it airs. There's I don't know the calculations, but if your episode airs this many times on TV, like, you get money for it. Streaming, it's just up and exists the one time. So there's almost no residuals. They've been fighting really hard to get residuals for that to happen for streaming.
So I think the way that residuals work roughly, it kind of has like a half-life. So I'm just going to use $10,000 as
just as an example.
Yeah. So you get paid. I write an episode of a TV show. I get paid $10,000. That episode reruns. Upon rerun, I get $5,000. Upon rerun, $2,500. So on until it reaches, I think, a point where you just get X amount every time, probably pennies.
Yeah.
So it's streaming. I just get $10,000.
Yes.
Okay.
That's kind of what's been going on.
Roughly.
Yeah. Like, they've worked out some type of stuff with them depending on their numbers, but here's another big problem. Netflix has been the big culprit of this because they do not publicly release their numbers. Ever. So whenever they say, like, oh, this is the number one show in our program, we don't know that. Like, they do not tell anyone what their numbers are. That's just how they've always been. And if you want to start doing some type of residuals based on viewership, you would have to do that, and they are not thrilled about that idea. They have released statements saying that they would, if a deal is met, they would work out something to where they would abide by the deal. But if it somehow doesn't release and them not releasing their numbers, that's crazy to me. I still don't know how they get away with not releasing their numbers. But that has been one of the points of contention. And going back to writing now being a gig work, some of the other things that the writers were demanding or asking for were they wanted a minimum of 6 to 12 writing staff per show, depending on the number of episodes. I don't know the exact breakdown, but I believe it's like, hey, if a show has more than 6 episodes, there should be at least X amount of writers. I think it's 4. Okay. And if a show gets to 8, then you should have 6 writers. And then if it gets to 12, you should have this. It's basically just saying there are a lot of shows right now where one person is writing them all, like a handful of, they're what they call mini writers' rooms. Because basically, a writer's room, for those of you that don't know, is where a lead writer, a showrunner, an executive producer writer, can then hire a bunch of writers, normally 2 or 3 veteran writers, 2 or 3 mid-level writers, and 2 or 3 newcomers, to map out and write their entire series together. And it's expensive because you have a bunch of writers working the idea, but it's how you create a solid Bible for a story.
And does that work in that? Because then I know only like a few people can get writing credit. If it's their sole episode, they get then more, but they're still being paid to work the writer's room?
Yes. Okay. There's a kind of a salary in going to work and being a part of that.
And then it's almost like a bonus if you're the main writer for the episode.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And now what writers have been forced into a corner of is what they call mini writers' rooms, where they've cut the new beginning writers, bringing them in, and the mid-level writers, and they've only have like 2 or 3 big-level writers. And what that does is that it creates an environment where you're not getting any newcomers, you're not getting any fresh voices, fresh ideas for writing. You're cutting the spending on writing in half so that it kind of becomes an ego battle between the people who are in that mini room, and the show is not getting worked on, and it's not getting mapped out as much because you only have a limited number of people working on it.
And perspectives.
Yes.
Ideas, yeah.
It's just very constraining, and it's like that's their idea of saving money, and the WGA is trying to stop that. They're like, this should not be happening. And it should be pointed out, if you don't know, writers' rooms is a TV thing. Mostly. A lot of the arguments here are for TV-related things because that's where the WGA in television, writers have all the power. In the movies, it's the director and the producer. In TV, it's the writer. Writers always control what's going on in television. Another thing that they were asking for was a guaranteed minimum number of weeks of employment per season. And I believe it ranges from like 10 to 52, depending on how long shooting is. And that's another thing that we've seen happening, is that writers not being on set as often, which is something they're also trying to go against. And you might be thinking, well, hey, if the script's written, how come the writer needs to be on set? Well, there are several instances in which a writer being on set has greatly benefited a film or a television series. And it's because if they realize an idea is not working, or they think, hey, maybe this idea is better, That writer is there to go into a room, out some pages, come out, hey, try this.
Mm-hmm.
Because, improving, a lot of people think it's just people riffing. And sometimes it is, especially in comedies. But a lot of the times, if you want that riff to be consistent and that idea not die, you have to have a writer incorporated into the scene. It just works out much better that way.
Yeah, because an actor can ad-lib a line and be like, oh, that kind of works. It's not fully there yet, but there's something. Let me go.
And the writer can go
do this real quick, punch it up, because I
Yes.
like that addition, but
Yes.
it needs to be more fully fledged.
Yes,
Yeah.
and a great movie example as to why writers need to be on set. And The Hollywood Reporter, I think, just dropped this as an example of like, hey, this is why this is bad, that writers can't be on set right now for the strike, is Spider-Man No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible movie, made almost $2 billion during the pandemic. That movie started shooting, I want to say January of 2019, or no, not 2019, 2020, or early mid-summer 2020.
Okay.
The deal to get Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield went through in December.
Jesus.
Which means the writers were on set, and one day they came in and said, we got him. Go ahead and rewrite that third act for me, boys. And they just had to rewrite the third act of the movie. Because they were working on a script of just in case they didn't get them.
Yeah, of just him fighting
The villains, yeah.
So the villains were always a part of it because those were guaranteed. It was just a matter of if the other Spider-Men were coming into it.
And if there's a strike and those writers are not on set, who writes that ending?
Yeah.
Nobody. Nobody writes it as well. We've seen what happens when movies come out where the writers are on strike. Like, nothing good happens from that.
Mm-hmm. And
it's like, that's a prime example as to why that's important, of like writers being on set, being around.
Yeah.
And again, there's several different things that the writer's strike is wanting to tackle and get rid of. The residuals for streaming, the making sure it's more of a career so they can have salary payments. Another big one, and this is one I really wanted to bring up, AI.
Mm-hmm.
WGA asked the producers and the studios, I forget their acronym, they have an acronym as well. Can you just straight up tell us you will not use AI scripts? And they refused to deny it. And their counter offer was, we should have a meeting once a year and discuss advancements in technology. That was their response.
And they want to do like second drafts, right?
So that's the big thing. So what has come out, like, as, hey, these conversations have already started happening and this is really fucked, is studios want to have AIs write first drafts and story outlines and then pay screenwriters to rewrite the scripts, but only pay them a rewrite fee.
Jeez.
That's insane, right? Like, that can't happen. So that's another reason why this strike is going on. Like, I can't even believe they would try to get away with that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But so you have all of this stuff happening, and now you may be wondering to yourself, well, what does the writer's strike mean? Like, what's immediately affected? What is affected in the future? Well, we're a movie show. I'll tell you. So,
I'll just want to say this also. Everything the writers made is valid.
yeah.
Every single point.
Yeah, no, if you,
fully justified strike, if you want my opinion.
Yeah, no, if you go through their stuff, they're not asking for anything ridiculous or outrageous
asking
at
for
all.
a living
Yeah.
wage.
Please help us pay rent. Thank you. Oh, did you see the story of the guy the showrunner of The Bear?
No.
When he went to the Emmys, he had to sell something so he could rent a tux.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I remember, I think there was one guy that I follow. I think he was the showrunner of the James Corden show. Mm-hmm. And I think he was almost his sidekick, like on screen or whatever. And he was like, I ran a late show and I drove a 2010 Toyota Camry here.
Yeah.
And you're like, Jesus.
Yeah. It's like, it's not what you realize. And so going into what immediately gets screwed, late night shows.
Yes.
All have immediately ceased production, including late night Seth Meyers, late night all this. James Corden show ended right before the strike. Coincidence? Maybe. And SNL, all shut down. Basically, things that required things to be written weekly, just immediately shut down. You can't do it. Everyone remembers Conan famously just spinning coins on his desk during the last writer's strike.
That's just because Conan's great.
Yeah.
And also, I guess the studio made him try to keep going. Right? It was kind of the story there. He's like, I don't want to. I'm going to do this.
Yeah. And So that's been going on there.
Well, a lot of those guys are also writers.
Yes.
So it kind of puts them in like,
In a weird
like
spot.
Seth Meyers is,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, is Jimmy Fallon, is he part of the WGA? You think?
I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but it's, you know, if they went out against it, it would be a very bad look for them.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I know a lot of those, or at least from what I saw, Seth Meyers and Jimmy Fallon, I think that
they're paying their staffs for a little bit.
they're paying, I think, 2 weeks, and
Mhm.
then a third week, I think they said Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers are each paying
Out of
individually out of
Yeah.
pocket. Yeah.
Which, you know, it's better than nothing, but this strike's going to be a whole lot longer.
Oh,
than
it's
3
definitely going to
weeks.
be a lot longer than
Yeah.
3 weeks.
I've heard the estimate is probably Labor Day,
Mm-hmm.
but I've heard that if a deal isn't reached by Labor Day, this thing's going until Christmas.
Labor Day is September?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of like the daytime shows, like Morgan watches The View a
Mhm.
lot. And she's like, man, you can tell. And they like even said like, we don't have writers, but
Mhm.
it's, you know, it's a show. But it seems like it's kind of just turned into them just whatever they read this morning on
Yeah.
like that'd be me like saying like, oh, do you know the writer's strike went on? And then just without like having the article in front of me, just being like, yeah, I think it has like they want something with AI. Like it just becomes like this like 30-minute pandering
Yeah.
section. You're like, man, you need writers that have
Yeah.
bullet points. Like
Yeah.
you need,
Exactly, yeah.
yeah.
And going into non-live productions,
Mhm.
the big one, Stranger Things, has halted its last season.
Mm.
And they said they're not going to continue filming until the new deal is reached because they're on set rewriting stuff, which
Yeah.
is, like we said earlier, is going to happen. From movies, Blade has officially shut down pre-production. That movie can't get a fucking break.
Again.
Yeah. Shut down pre-production because they just hired a new writer to work on that. It was going to start filming, I believe, next month. And they were like, shut it down.
So they have some of a script that they're keeping, and then they brought in the True Detective writer
Mhm.
Nick
Yeah.
to the P,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just kind of punching it up.
He
and
was rewriting the script and was going to be there on set to make any changes.
to do that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, so they could theoretically
I-
start with what they have, but
I read, they decided not to.
I mean, smart. If
Yeah.
there's already this many delays.
Because
on
I read that in Hollywood Reporter that they just ran out of time.
it.
Because Marvel's still going into production on a lot. Like, they're still going to shoot Deadpool 3, but
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is not allowed to punch up the script while they're shooting.
Did Ryan Reynolds write it?
No, but he's famous for
Ad-libbing.
ad-libbing, and then he would write pages, like, on
he'd be
set
like,
with
"Can
the
we do
writers.
this?"
Yeah. And you can't do that.
Interesting.
I believe Fantastic Four is going to shoot in January, and I believe they have a draft that they're going to start with if the strike isn't done by then.
That's kind of nerve-wracking considering they
Mhm.
really need Fantastic Four to be a win,
Yeah.
just because
And there's a lot
there
of
haven't been a good Fantastic Four.
and there's a lot of stuff filming now, like Daredevil Born Again's filming now, and I believe all those scripts are done.
But there's just no one. They're kind of going with what they have.
Yeah, and there's some showrunner duties that people are showing up to work as producers but not as writers. Like Andor is still filming.
Mhm.
I saw a great tweet that said that's not very fuck the Empire of them. But it's like that's still there's some shows still going on, but a lot of shutdown. I actually have a list of productions that are being immediately affected by the strike. If you don't mind me,
Yeah. Now
reading them.
real quick though, is it kind of a thing on set though, right? Kind of like what happened with Quantum of Solace, where like, are we going to be seeing directors, producers, the studios kind of like nudging, like, try that again?
Yeah,
You know, like on Deadpool, like Ryan
Yeah.
Reynolds improvising. Do you think he's just not going to the writers' room, but
he'll
is he-
improvise on set.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But is it going to be kind of a heavier hand from the like kind of like,
It all depends.
we need this to
Anything that we hear about, we won't hear about till afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to reveal that
No,
they've
absolutely
been doing
not,
some
yeah.
tomfoolery. So, like we said, all of the talk shows have been stopped, and here's a list of shows that have been shut down or temporarily halted. Yellow Jackets, which I heard that they had the writers' room for one day on the new season, and then the strike.
Oh, jeez. So they got
Um,
nothing.
Wonder Man, the Marvel series, has stopped.
Really?
Mhm.
Interesting.
Has stopped. Unstable, Stranger Things, which we mentioned. Night Court, Loot, Hacks has stopped. Evil has stopped. Cobra Kai, which is the big one, has stopped.
'Cause that's going into its final season.
Yep. Big Mouth has stopped, and Abbott Elementary have all stopped.
I'm curious because a lot of the shows you mentioned, I believe I know for a fact, are working on their final seasons.
Mhm.
And do you think that the strike is going to affect the quality of those final
if they
seasons?
don't stop, yes.
Or do you think it will just be a shortened season?
That can all happen. That all happened last time.
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to see a bunch of shows just get canceled.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we can't go this long without working on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll just end it there. Also, the Community, the movie, has shut down as well.
I saw that. That upset me. I don't think they had even really started heavy production on that, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think Dan Harmon's still working on the script. It's just...
Mm-hmm.
See, what I'm curious about with stuff like that and a lot of the Marvel stuff is schedules are a bitch.
Yeah.
Schedules are make or break in Hollywood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have this talent, right? So the fact that Donald Glover said he was coming back to the Community movie was big.
Yeah.
That might be out the window now, right?
It could be. Well,
depending on what his schedule
looks like. The good news is if all of these things are shutting down,
Yes.
they can't do anything anyways.
Yes.
But
true.
You might get lucky with that one production that hasn't shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Like here's a list of TV shows that are still shooting.
Mm-hmm.
American Horror Story, season 12. My God. Andor.
It's on 12?
Yeah. Andor.
Mm-hmm.
Billions. Good Omens. House of the Dragon. Lord of the Rings season 2. And all WWE shows.
Lord of the Rings had writers?
Oh, man. I haven't watched the show
Zing.
yet, but that's good.
I haven't either.
And there's a list of...
I'm just going off internet discourse.
And by the way, movies that are not affected: Good Burger 2, thank God, and Superman Legacy, because they have one draft that they're going to work on.
Now, see, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that
We
one
can.
for a minute?
Yes, we can.
So James Gunn is the writer, director, executive producer, head of DC Studios.
CEO of the studio.
CEO of DC Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And he's directing their first movie, which they need to be perfect to really help the imaging of the brand.
Yep.
As the director and the head of the studio, he cannot write anything, though.
Nope.
Can he write anything under the radar and just have a bad look? Or is it like
he
expunged from the
should
union?
not do that.
Okay.
They're already mad because a lot of other unions are just not working out of solidarity with WGA.
Mm-hmm.
Like directors and producers being like, I'm not going to work because I'm not going to go to work until you help the writers. And he's not doing that. Like there's a lot of people not doing that.
Yeah.
But now, here's the big thing. Guess what expires next month?
The
DGA contract.
Boy.
Guess what expires a little bit after that? The SAG one.
SAG is actors?
Yeah.
DGA is directors. So directors, actors, and writers can all be on strike?
There is a chance that the directors go... Listen, I'm not sure. You'd have to fact check me on if the Directors Guild has ever gone on strike. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
If the Directors Guild goes on strike, nothing's happening.
Everything has to stop.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And also, if you work, if you're not in a union like myself and you work during this or a studio offers something to you, the guilds remember and they will not give you membership.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's a very no thing to do.
Yeah.
And the good news is, for anyone who wants to get out to LA, I'm talking to myself here, when everything is back up, there's going to be more work available than ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a boom of work out there. So, yeah.
But James Gunn,
Mm-hmm.
famous on set, big old microphone, rewriting on the fly.
Yeah.
Is that allowed as long as it doesn't hit a paper?
Well, I mean, he can say, say this, and I think that counts. But
that's what I'm saying. But
yeah,
is there a certain threshold where you'd be like, you say this, you say this, you say this, you say this, but it never touches?
I think that's okay.
Like a loophole?
Yeah.
Almost, but also then look.
I've seen with some of the Marvel stuff that's shooting right now, because a ton of Marvel stuff's shooting, like Captain America's shooting, Agatha is shooting, Daredevil's shooting.
And they're all going still.
Yeah.
They're all we're good with the script.
And I've heard that Marvel's strategy right now is they're going to only shoot on the page, and then in their reshoots is when they're going to do all of their improvs. Yeah.
I'd be curious about that.
Me too. But hey, that's the strike, baby.
That's the strike. That'd be insane if the actors and the director, everyone just halted. It'd be a little wild.
Yeah, that would actually be crazy.
Yellowstone's ending too. Was that affected by it, or was that just more
more Kevin Costner just wanting to fuck off?
Yeah,
that's pretty much what happened there.
I guess they can't start it anyway, though.
Yeah.
Regardless, yeah. Wild times out there.
It is pretty wild out there. It is wild, and yeah, that's the writer's strike, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, sorry, real quick. What I was saying before, like the scheduling and everything.
Yeah.
You know, you have like Mahershala Ali, big name. You have rumors of some casting for Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Big names.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that all goes away because delays and it's like, I can't do this anymore and we haven't started filming, so...
It like I said, it all depends on what other opportunities are out there, because they can't really start new things.
Okay.
Because no writers are working.
True. So it doesn't really matter. Everything could just be pushed and line up again.
Yeah, like everyone's just kind of stagnant in a way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the writer's strike, at least the updates for now. If you have any questions, leave comments. We'll try to stay consistent on this as it develops. We'll probably be in this for quite some time. So, yeah, that'll be interesting and fun. And with our main topic down, we're now going to move on to the B-roll section of our show. And if you need a little reminder, that's just where we read off some headlines of other stuff going on in the world of movies and entertainment, but we didn't have time to really dive into them as topics. Nick, what's up first on the B-roll?
Our first one's kind of exciting. A Mortal Kombat sequel is still happening. And for those who have seen the first one, spoilers, the end credits scene sort of teases the appearance of famous Mortal Kombat fighter, fan favorite Johnny Cage. And it appears that while no official confirmation has happened, it seems they may have found their Johnny Cage in The Boys' Carl Urban.
My thoughts? Yes.
Yes, indeed.
What's next?
Guy Ritchie is showing no signs of slowing down as he has already cast his next movie following the 2 movies that he's already come out with this year and the movie he has coming out next year. His new one will star Jake Gyllenhaal, who he just worked in The Covenant, and Henry Cavill and Isa Gonzalez, who he's working with on the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, I believe it's called. The film follows 2 extraction specialists who must plan an escape path for a high-level female negotiator. I wonder who everyone will be playing.
Guy Ritchie's on the run of his life and none of you are going. What the fuck? Anyway, continue.
I love Guy Ritchie and I haven't seen any of them, and I feel I really want to watch Operation Fortune.
They're both good.
They're both good?
Yeah.
And finally, a recent Netflix contract has sought to grant the company free use of a simulation of an actor's voice, quote, by all technologies and processes now known or hereafter developed throughout the universe and in perpetuity.
My opinion, bad. What the fuck?
Throughout the universe and in perpetuity.
That's a good band name.
They're just really covering all grounds there, aren't they?
They really want to, yeah.
Not to get political, but that sounds like that phrasing, that wording reminds me of the whole like Disney thing going on where they're like, yeah, so this contract is relevant until 20 years after the last living descendant of King Charles.
Yeah.
And you're like, so forever?
Yes. It's pretty great.
That's all we've got for the B-roll, folks. Oh, Jonathan Groff's going to be in Doctor Who.
Yes.
We don't really talk Doctor Who much on this, but I need to throw that out there.
Thank you. Thank you to whoever made that happen.
Doctor Who's coming back bigger and better than ever, and I'm so pumped.
Excited, dude.
I'm
excited. So happy about it. But yes. Thank you, Nicholas, for the B-roll.
Of course.
And with that down, we are going to conclude the show by moving on to the box office.
The box office. All right, Dalton, last week you had Dungeons and Dragons.
Jesus Christ, there's no way I'm going to find that weekend.
John Wick 4, Shazam 2, Scream, and Creed. I think your predictions are a little outdated.
Hold on. Let me see if I can find that week.
There's no way.
No, I can't.
This was a joke for us being gone for so long.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to start off by doing the... these are the Sunday estimates. We'll put the final Monday numbers in the description, which you can see below. This is the top 5 box office of the weekend. Do you want to take maybe a gander as to maybe what number 1 was?
I'm going to go Guardians 3.
Yeah, solid choice, because that is correct. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 opened to what is looking like $114 million. Followed up by the Super Mario Brothers movie, which has been on a killing, making $18.6 million in its 5th week. Coming in third, Evil Dead Rise, making another $5.7 million. Coming in fourth, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, making $3.3 million. And coming in fifth, Love Again, making $2.4 million.
Love Again?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, these are the estimates. John Wick 4 might sneak up past Love Again at number 5. There's only about a couple million difference there. But we'll see. All the other ones are pretty solid in there. Let's break down these numbers a little bit by diving into Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's take a look at the other films, what they've opened at, but also kind of break down where Guardians 3 is at right now. So right now, Guardians 3, the domestic opening of 114, so far worldwide, with just the openings here, has already made $282 million. This was made on a production budget of $250 million. Holy but Jesus. And so far has already made budget back, but like we've said, you have to make a roughly 2.5 times to get profitability. I think this is going to hit that no problem, and I definitely see it outperforming Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I don't even think hit $500 million at the box office. Diving into the other ones, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 had an opening weekend of, let's see here, $94 million.
Okay.
Which is actually pretty crazy for like the first one being a Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Mm-hmm.
And let me see.
Just because no one was really familiar with the characters, kind of a bigger swing for Marvel to.
Yeah, and we were in the heyday of the MCU right there.
Yeah.
And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 had an opening weekend of, hold for show, $146. That opened pretty high. That was also in the midst of the MCU doing its thing.
So 2's opened higher than 3 as of right now, based off Sunday estimates.
Yes, and I don't think it's going to hit
2.
That. Yeah. But now let's kind of look at, with those openings, what it led to box office wise. So the first Guardians of the Galaxy on the $94 million opening weekend made a worldwide box office of $770 million. And they have home video market performance on here now. That's fucking cool. Sorry, I just saw that. I like that. But yeah, that ended up making $770 million. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 ended up making $869 million. So it's rough to guess that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 will probably end up somewhere in the middle, maybe around 800. But that's also assuming it doesn't have that great of legs, because there's no real competition coming out next weekend. I think it's just the new Charlie Day film. And that Guardians is going to open number 1 again next week. And this has an A cinema score. Like the other 2 movies, they all 3 got A cinema scores. So I feel like legs could be a huge possibility. Although, it should be pointed out, the higher a movie opens, the less likely it is to have a less significant drop. The second Guardians of the Galaxy movie had a 55% drop weekend 1 to week 2. The first Guardians of the Galaxy had a 55 drop weekend 1 to weekend 2. So we can probably assume another 55 drop. If it drops lower, then we can talk about it maybe even getting closer to Volume 2's grosses, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, but the following weekend, not this coming week with the Charlie Day movie, but the next week you have Fast X.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm going to
it's going to go number 1.
To do bananas.
Yeah, it's going to be bananas. But I think Guardians 2 will stay number 2 right under it.
Now, do you think that Guardians 3 will be
Guardians 3, rather.
Guardians 3 will be affected kind of by this slump that we've seen in the MCU's box office?
I think so, but I think it's also going to be the first one that kind of
bumps it up a bit, because Ant-Man was around 500.
Yeah, its total gross was just below 500.
Just below 500. Okay. I know Shazam didn't. I'm just doing superhero movies in general. It didn't do.
It did really bad.
Yeah. Black Adam did.
Yeah. 400 something.
400 something. What was before Ant-Man? Doctor Strange? How'd that one? That one got close to $1 billion.
Close to $1 billion.
Okay. So yeah, it might be. We'll see. I guess it depends on how many confident people are.
Black Panther did good too.
Black Panther did do good? Okay.
Yeah, I think it got to 700.
700? So do you think this will pass that then?
Maybe.
Perhaps?
Okay. Right now it's on par to pass Guardians 1, and that made 770.
I think people have always liked the Guardians. Like, I have friends who aren't into Marvel, and they were like, oh, I watched Guardians. I liked that one. I'd go see that,
Absolutely.
Because they've always been very isolated from everything else.
And also, something that's affecting the Disney movies box offices now that didn't exist at the other times was just this thing called Disney Plus. Now, especially with the new way of putting it on streaming before home video, which doesn't make any fucking sense, but now there are people who are just like, oh, I'll just wait and watch it on Disney Plus. Now, granted, it's not a metric fuck ton of people, but it's enough to. It's the difference between maybe $8.25 and $8.35. You know, like it's maybe a $10 million difference. So we'll have to see how that affects things as well. Next up in that lineup was Super Mario Brothers. That movie is doing hella good at the box office. It has officially passed $1 billion, which is something that we thought might happen. It's at 1.155. Pretty good. It had a budget of $100 million. It's made 11.6 times its budget back. We're going to see more Mario movies, I think it's safe to assume.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This has outranked any other video game movie, clearly the highest grossing video game movie. It's probably it might stay that way for a hot minute, depending on the other video game movies that we get. But yeah, Mario is doing great. Evil Dead Rise. I want to dive into this a little bit and kind of look at the other Evil Dead films. So Evil Dead Rise has officially passed $100 million worldwide. Good for that movie, considering it was supposed to be an HBO Max release, which still blows my mind, by the way. And I believe it was made on a budget of about 15 to 20. That's what I've been told.
Okay.
So it's making shmoney. It's made its money back, no problem. Let's kind of dive into the 2013 Evil Dead, which is kind of the most recent example that we have, the one from 10 years ago. That hit me for a second. Evil Dead 2013 made a total worldwide of 99. It was right there. It was on the cusp of greatness. Close. But that movie also had not a high budget, had a budget of 17. Made 5.8 times its budget back. So also a great success. Great success. And I also, you have to.
Tourette's out of here.
It was Borat.
I know it was Borat. I said it was Tourette's.
Oh.
Moet.
Anyways. Then I wanted to take the opportunity to look at the grosses of the other Evil Dead movies to kind of have some fun with it. The Evil Dead. The OG, 1981 to 3, depending on who you are. Had a production budget of $375,000. Do you want to gander what its worldwide box office total is?
Now, does that go into like re-releases, like in the theaters now? I'm gonna go 15 million.
15? Close. 29.4, almost 30.
Not close. Literally half.
Listen. It made 78.4 times its budget back.
Good. As it should.
Now let's dive into Evil Dead 2, which came out in 1987 and is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I keep trying to... It's hard to tell, like, older family members to watch a movie called Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
And they just won't do it. It's the best. It's the GOAT. Evil Dead 2, this may come as a shock to you, was made on a budget of $3.5 million. Do you want to guess how much it grossed?
Can I have a hint? Is it higher or lower?
Lower.
Lower? $15 million.
No, it actually did quite bad. 5.9.
Really?
Yes, it made 1.7 times its budget back, but it did a killing on home video. And that's where The Evil Dead made a lot of its money before getting re-released. And yeah, they both did killings on home videos. And because I have to, let's look at Army of Darkness,
aka the Medieval Dead.
What it should have been called, yes. My computer's running a bit slow, forgive me.
I thought about just saying that to Sam Raimi when I met him at MegaCon. Just being like, they should have let you keep it called Medieval Dead and just walk away.
That would have been great. Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
Was made on a budget of $11 million. How much did it make, Nicholas?
$11 million budget? I'm going to go with it being the highest grossing. I'm going to go $40 million.
40 million?
Yeah.
It made 21.
I'm really bad at this.
Exactly 2 times his budget back.
Profitable?
No, but guess what happened? Killing on VHS.
Of course it was.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of the history of the Evil Dead franchise. And Evil Dead Rise and Evil Dead 2013 both being insanely profitable.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell those movies over time have gained that audience. And listen, it's the only horror franchise where every entry, including the television series, which is phenomenal, it's the only horror franchise where everything is fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's a great franchise. Watch it if you haven't seen it. And that is all of the box office that I planned on diving into. Is there anything you wanted me to look into?
No. I mean, do you wanna do some predictions?
Fuck yes, I do.
All right. So just next week we just have Fool's Paradise, the Charlie Day movie.
Yes. Let me see if there's anything else coming out, at least in our market.
Okay. Hold for show.
Because if it's not in our market, it's not going to be in the top 5 probably. Oh, Book Club: The Next Chapter. That's going to make 80 for Brady money, probably.
Oh, boy.
Hypnotic comes out.
No.
Yes.
I'm seeing Fool's Paradise.
Come on.
I'm seeing Fool's Paradise.
Friday after work.
We're getting a modern-day Charlie Chaplin movie. I want to watch
Of course, I'm getting tickets for Fool's Paradise. But Friday after work, will you go watch Hypnotic with me?
I have to see a trailer. That's a tough sell.
You haven't seen the trailer?
No. It's Robert Rodriguez.
We're watching it after this.
I don't like Robert Rodriguez.
We're watching it. Spy Kids, how dare you, first of all. How dare you?
You know what? I take it back.
Yeah, but it's just Hypnotic, the Charlie Day film, and Book Club 2.
Okay.
Which I think Book Club 2 might outdo them. I'm serious. I'm so serious.
All right. So where are you going? What are you?
All right. Here's what I got. Coming in at number 1, may come as a shock to you, but Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Coming in number 2, I'm going to go Mario again. 3, Book Club, Chapter 2. 4, Fool's Paradise, which is the Charlie Day movie. 5, Evil Dead Rise.
Okay. I am going to go Guardians 3. Whoa. I'm going to go Super Mario.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go Book Club. I'm going to go Evil Dead. I'm going to go Fool's Paradise.
All right.
Because I feel like not a lot of people know about Fool's Paradise.
Yep.
And that makes me sad.
Me too. No
Hypnotic, though.
No.
Fair.
I don't think it's going to do well. But yeah, those are our predictions.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's all we had for the show today, my guy.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Dalton Burdett.
I've been Nick Iricchio.
And thank you for watching the Movie Nights Roundtable.